Ms. Legalista here. Welcome to the live. And if you catch this later, welcome to the video. And of course, my phone goes off as soon as I start with the live. But welcome. It's midday. I've had my lunch and I am ready to have this conversation with you about naming your kids, naming your children, naming your babies. How do you figure out what you want to name them, knowing that this name is going to follow them for the rest of their lives unless they go to court and file to get a name changed, or they get married and the last name changes, or there's some mix of the name, or they choose to just go by their nickname their whole life out in the world, but everybody in the background kind of knows what the real name was. But yeah, how do you decide whether or not you're really going to go all in on maybe your family history and your ties to a community that lets everyone know what your race is, what your ethnicity is, where you came from? When you see these studies that say, hey, that might count against your child, do you still say to yourself, but you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway? This is a good name. It's a strong name. It's a name that has value behind it. It's a name that recognizes our family history, and I'm going to stick with it, knowing that, hey, there are these studies that continue to show that there may be some serious consequences to this. Now, this particular study is focusing on employment, jobs. It's focusing on callbacks. But we've all seen some of these other stories too, right? Some of these other studies that talk about different treatment in terms of medical care, in terms of just walking into public spaces and trying to be served like everyone else. And so it does impact how you appear in the world, the treatment that you get. And sometimes that appearance is just a piece of paper that, has your resume on it, and you send it off to somebody and you wonder why you don't get a call back. And the thing about it is, if you don't get the call back, you never get the opportunity to really shine, right? If they don't get past your name, you don't get a chance to tell them about your great experience, about the attributes, how you can be an asset to their team, the great ideas that you have. You can't wait to work for them. You're excited. You never get to really share any of this because you don't even get the call back. All right, I want to talk about this discrimination report. And this is coming out of the University of Chicago, Becker Friedman Institute for economics, because, that's what jobs are really about, right? It's about your family economics, having money come in so you can pay your bills, so you can buy some food. I want to bring that up so that we can take a look at that and sort of go through this discrimination report card. And here's the thing. So the study was actually done a few years ago, back in 2021. But now they've sort of gone through and said, hey, we're going to put together this report card and we're going to name names. I am going to show you. Now, they did this great graphic that sort of moves, but I'm going to show you the names. And then they actually look at industries too. Now, some of the industries you're going to be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Ann Taylor Loft, yeah, they probably, are more gender oriented towards hiring women. Yeah, so we're going to see a breakdown, not just of race, but of gender also. And they also provide some information about industry breakdowns. Now, I'm not going to go that deep into this, but I do want us to sort of have a conversation about where we thought this was in 2024 and what this study is sort of showing us. And again, this was actually 2021, but this new grading system that they've come out with is now 2021. So it says a new statistical methodology is used to grade the race and gender of, and I guess I should move my computer there, callback gaps of large US employers, and shows that firms assigned the worst grade are estimated to favor white applicants over Black applicants by, and you see the percent there. And then even the ones that were, better at it, they still had about, I guess, 3%. I need to move my computer so I can actually see here. There we go. All right. And I want to scroll down through this so that we can see this. Like I said before, there is a lot of information that they have in here about what this looks like. And so that's what I was saying before. 20 years ago, they had this study. They sent out these fictional resumes. It's sort of like in the housing industry. I don't know how many of you are really familiar with some of what has gone on with the housing industry when they've sent testers out into the community, and they would have one black and one white, and they'd have both of the applicants submit an application to buy a house or rent a house. And that's what they would use in order to determine whether or not there was discrimination going on. They'd send these testers out, take them through all this training, and then find out, hey, is there some sort of desperate treatment that's going on here, something different that you're doing for one segment of the population that you're not doing for the other, and that is based on maybe race. So in 2021, they had their experiment, and they look at the number. It says their experiment, okay, measures the callback rates from over 83,000 fictitious job applications. 83,000. Can you imagine being the person? You're now told, well, hey, we're going to bring in some interns. We're going to have them work on this research study for us. And your job is to actually apply for jobs. We're shooting for 83,000. And so you know how much it takes to apply for a job, to research job, apply for them, with your resume and your cover letter, and you're writing all of this stuff. Imagine that you were one of these people who worked on this, and you're going for this 83,000. So 83,000 fictitious job applications. And they sent them to 11,000 entry-level job openings. And so here's the thing. It's not even like at that point, you're sending it for jobs that require a really long history, job history, expecting people to have a whole lot of experience. This is entry-level jobs. So not even jobs where they're asking for a whole lot, but entry level. You're at the starting point and you can't get a call back. They sent these to more than 100 Fortune 500 companies across the country. And like I said, we're going to look at the actual names of these companies so that you can see them. But let me scroll down so you can see the results that they have here and how they start to break this out. So who are these firms? It says using the callback rates from their earlier experiment, this experiment that they did, this is how they're coming up with this report card. The authors construct a report card that grades the level of discrimination shown in the experiment by each company. And so you can see here, they've spread it out. So here on the far end in the red, those are the companies that have a higher rate of discrimination. That's what they're saying. Those companies are more likely to not give you a call back if you have a name that sounds like it's associated with a certain race. They are the ones. And notice here that after that, there's sort of a big gap and it goes along a continuum. But let's see who's in red. So who's in red? We've got Genuine Parts, which is Napa Auto. Okay. And you can see there, if you're white, it was 33.4%. If you were black, it was 24%. Then you also have Auto Nation, callback 14.2 for white applicants, 9.2 for black applicants. And I guess, the interesting thing here is both of those were auto companies or related to the auto industry. Over here in the red, all by themselves, over here in the red. And then we've got quite a few on this continuum. And you can see, like when I hover over them, you can see the names of these companies. So you have Nationwide, Costco, Builders First Source. And then you get down here toward the middle, Universal Health, Gap, Cardinal Health. And so they did a lot of different types of industries, as you'll see as I hover over these. It's not like there was one kind of industry that they looked at. There are just a lot of different kinds of companies here. Starbucks is in there, Target. And then you get over here where the callback rates are supposed to be a little bit closer together. So you can see FedEx, look at the gap there, white, callback rate of 18.9%, callback rate for black applicant with black sounding name, 19.5%. So as you get down to this end, you start to see that there's less of a gap there. And then it says, and others only slightly or not at all. Okay. All right. It says the firm that exhibits the least racial discrimination is Charter Spectrum, a cable, internet, telephone, and wireless service provider. Charter Spectrum is like, yeah, we just want good applicants. We're calling everybody back. If the resume looked good, if the experience looked good, if we didn't see anything that was questionable, we're going to give you a call back. And that's generally the way it should be for any company, right? Any company. You should be able to expect to get a call back if you fit the criteria that they're looking for. So you can see here, it was white 44.8 and then black 46.2. So blacks actually had a higher callback rate. So yeah, Charter Spectrum over here on the end. And then you had some others here. Rider systems. I'm not sure who they are. You had Target, which look at Target, 20.1 to 20.3. So Target is just like, we just want you to apply. We want you to apply and we will take you. We don't care what your name looks like. We don't care at all. Rider Systems already said. McLean Company, don't know who they are. Lowe's is over here, 35.7, 35.8. And here's the thing. One thing to think about, like I said before, it takes a lot of time to fill out job applications. These applications go on and on. They're asking for all of this history. They want contact information. Where did you live? What was the job title? Can we contact your prior employer, your prior manager? And for some of you, you're like, I don't know who that person was. That was 10 years ago. I have no idea what that person's name was. You don't remember. They probably don't remember you. And so you spend a lot of time putting together a list of jobs that look good, sound like a good fit to you. And you go through and do everything they ask you to do. You fill out the application, you write your cover letter, you've got your 3 references, and you've sent resumes to them, just sort of remind them, hey, or you've texted them, you sent them a text, right? Said, hey, I'm applying for this job. Just want to let you know I put you down as a reference. So you want to know up front, I would want to know, like, I don't want to waste my time applying to a company that's not really going to call me back because they have a history of not calling people back if the name sounds like it's a certain race. Yeah, who wants to waste their time doing that? Nobody wants to waste their time doing that. I had, I get referrals from a lot of different companies, and I had this one company that I'd reached out to become a part of their referral group. And it was very interesting, the response that I got, because it said something like, well, we require people to have 5 years of legal experience. And like, I've been licensed since 2002. So, I can do math. At this point, I'm kind of good at addition and subtraction. So that's over 20 years. So that's way beyond this 5 years that you're talking about. And then they sort of mentioned the different industries. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done some of that too. Yeah. So I checked the box on that too. And then they had something that said, we require experience. And I wrote it down. Let me see. This is something like specialized experience with, and it said prestigious boutique firms. Prestigious boutique firms. Now, here's the thing. The really prestigious firms are not advertising their jobs on LinkedIn. Okay. They don't advertise that way. They are so prestigious that there's a whole nother way that they get people. Okay. And usually it's not by posting on a job board, even if it's LinkedIn, even if it's a professional job board. A lot of the law schools have a system in place for connecting with employers. And that's usually how a lot of that works. There's a whole pathway, federal clerkships and who you worked for and who you had summer internships with. There's a pathway already there. There's no need for prestigious law firms to ever have to post on LinkedIn. And so when you see a company that's posting on LinkedIn and they're talking about how prestigious they are, it's more likely that they want to be perceived as prestigious. Okay. They aren't quite there yet. And this particular firm actually had a representative list. I won't even say list because it was sort of like a box. You know, you have the box of pictures that can go across the website. That's what they had. They had this box of different pictures of people who were associated with their firm, these referral attorneys. And I counted them. It was between like 25 and 30. There were a couple that overlapped there. And they were mostly white women, a couple of men, not a single black person. So between 25 and 30 and not a single one. But yeah, like they said, they're looking for people who have experience with prestigious boutique firms. So notice how the language sort of sets things up. And what happens is people will self-select out. They won't even submit anything. When they go up there and they see, oh, we want you to have come from a top tier school. Well, what does that mean? They won't say Ivy League. They'll say top tier school, things like that to let you know, don't apply because we are not going to hire you. So watch out for language that's like that. But let me shoot back over here to what they're saying here. So Charter Spectrum, one of those places who apparently is looking beyond the name. They say we are looking at the resume here. And I think we've got a number of companies that should probably learn how to do that too. So you can see the picture there. So down on this end, this is more discriminatory. Down on this end, less discriminatory. So let's see who we've got here. Because like I said, this is the key to not wasting your time, right? To making sure you're applying for a company that is going to look beyond your name. So over here on the less discriminatory side, we have Spectrum, which I just talked about. We have Avis. Avis get some car rentals. They're just like, we just want to get the cars rented out and get them back. They are probably more concerned about making sure that people can follow the rules that they have in place when it comes to renting cars out. It's like, we don't care what your name is. Kroger, all sorts of people coming in our store buying food. Here's the thing. Everybody needs food, right? Everybody. I don't know a single person who can live their life without having food. So now where you go is a different matter. Well, Kroger's just like, we've got everybody walking through the doors here. We want everybody in here working so that they can, hey, say hi, come on in, show them down the aisle, show them and talk to them about the meat products. They don't care. They don't care. The number is really close. Look at these percentages. They are really close. The callback rates for white sounding names, 46.1%, and for black sounding names, 46%. Really close. That's really close. Okay. So, hey, I'm going to apply there because that's probably not going to be a waste of my time. We've got waste management, still pretty close. And here's the thing, percentages can throw you off, right? Because even when it's a small percentage, we tend to think in terms of, oh, well, it's only 2%. But that 2% translates into a certain number of people. And if you're the person applying for the job, you're like, I don't want to be one of those people. So yeah, so the percent does matter, even when it's that small. But so there in the middle, we have waste management. Okay, I don't know who this is. If you're watching this, you let me know in the comments who that is. We've got Kohl's. I think I said them before. A retailer. If you're a smart retailer, you're more concerned about reaching your target audience, your target audience, and having people that can come in and do the work, really. Because you're going to have all kinds of people coming in buying shoes, buying clothes, buying bedding, buying baby stuff, buying small electric products. Hilton is like 23.7 and 26.3. Look at that. So not one of those places that, it's leaning a little bit more this way. Cisco, and then over here, as I mentioned before, you've got where they say more. This, some of these numbers, like I said, the difference is not that great. It's really not that high. All right. Let's scroll down and see what else they got in here. They said overall firms in red are 24% less likely. So if you're on that end, 24% less likely on average to call back a Black applicant compared to a white applicant. Firms in blue are 3% less likely. So you have over here are your firm, here are your blue firms. So like I just said, Hilton, let's scroll down so I can actually see, maybe see some of these companies. Kohl's, a lot of the ones that I just named. And then look at everybody else here in the middle. And I think they're going to talk about them in just a second. So it's almost like any bell curve, except for this one, it is a little bit, you do have a little bit more over here. But think about this as just a bell curve, okay? So you don't have a lot of people, a lot of companies that are being really discriminatory here based on this study, okay? You don't see a whole bunch of companies over here. We actually seem to be doing a little bit better over here because there's less, okay, not none, there's just less, okay? So it's something to shoot for. Goals. What we want is to move these people closer this way and these people closer this way and these people closer this way. So in the end, we really don't want a bell curve, right? We want sort of a trend that goes towards less discrimination when people are calling. But here's the thing, and here's what we kind of all figured, okay? Most firms are somewhere in the middle. Okay, look at that big group that's there in the middle. And again, if you look at this in terms of a trend, it looks like still that there's less down here and more toward the less discriminatory end, okay? The problem is you just want to make sure, you aren't calling these over here, wasting your time. And, it's a way for these companies to sort of look at themselves and say, okay, what are we doing wrong here? We're doing some things wrong. If we're showing up in a study that the University of Chicago put together and it has us listed, the company listed, I don't know, maybe they don't care. Maybe they have gotten rid of all of their, their diversity and inclusion people. All right, so let's look at who's here in the middle. So some ones that could do better might be Nationwide. You can see 8.9% to 6%. Costco, the 7 to 4.8. Builders First Source. CVS Health, look at that, 5.3 to 3.7. Let's see, Stanley Black & Decker, Aramark, Dean Foods, Advance Auto Parts, State Farm, O'Reilly Automotive. Let's see what else we got. VFC, making mostly products you wear. GameStop, still got a little bit of a discrepancy there. Rite Aid could do a little better. Look at that, 22.1 to 17.5. And maybe this also helps you think about how to get a job with some of these companies. So in that case, maybe it's this circumstance where, if they just post a job, you don't want to just send a resume over because now you know that you're less likely to get a call back. So what's the better option here is, do you know people that already work for that company? Well, we already knew that that was generally how people got jobs anyway, right? But now you're able to say, well, hey, I heard Rite Aid has a pretty good system, in terms of how it treats its pharmacists. Maybe I want to be a pharmacist at Rite Aid. But, I'm looking at these callback rates and I'm thinking, if I just shoot a resume over there with my sounding name, I don't know that I'm going to get very far. But there were some people I went to pharmacy school with. And I think some of them might be working at Rite Aid when I look at their LinkedIn. So maybe that's my in. My in is not through me sending a resume with my name on it. My in is through someone that I know. And so that's, outside of just this is the state of the world right now, it's also an opportunity for us to sort of say, where do I need to spend my time and how do I need to spend my time if I'm looking to get a job at any of these companies? And then, there are other things that you may have to focus on, and it may not be about your resume and just sending it out to somebody. So you've got Comcast here, 42%, 33.8%. That's kind of a big difference. And we start to move this way and we see this a little bit more. Gap, Cardinal Health, Dick's Sporting Goods, I guess, Pizza Hut. Not sure why Pizza Hut cares what people's names sound like. Edward Jones, Dillard's, Dollar Tree, 27.8 to 24.8% there. US Foods, Performance Group, I'm not sure who Performance Group is. Starbucks, LabCorp, JB Hunt, which is transportation, United Health. United Health, 10.3% callback rate for whites and 9.7 there for blacks. I think this is TJ Maxx, 52.8 to 49.2. So again, just showing you the trend is, if you stuck a balance up there, you would see that the balance is heavier on this end, right? It'd be tilting toward this end here. Like I said, which is good because it's less discriminatory. We just want to move to the point where we don't really see that at all. But we're people. So, more than half of the variation in racial discrimination across firms is explained by their industry. By their industry. So remember what I said earlier about Ann Taylor Loft. If Ann Taylor Loft only sells clothes that women would buy, then it's very likely that they're probably leaning toward hiring women. Here's the other thing. Men are probably self-selecting out of that. Men are probably saying, well, I don't want to work there. I don't wear dresses and skirts. I'm not going to be able to tell a woman if they're, if that's something I would try or what my thoughts are. So a lot of times you may have a situation where people self-select out, where they don't even apply in terms of gender. But when it comes to race, how do you explain that? How do you explain it for race? So let's look at some of the industries that we see over here. Remember, I talked about this earlier. These over here are both in the automotive industry. Napa was over there. Then so here, and this is how they sum it up. Auto dealers, services and parts were more likely to see discrimination in the callbacks. You see here other retail, which could be anything. Then you see apparel stores, home furnishing stores. And so we're getting less discriminatory over here. Manufacturing, banking, real estate, personal services, communication, general merchandise, building materials, food stores. Okay, so all of this tends to be less discriminatory, unlike what's on the other end with the automotive. So it says the industries that exhibit the most racial discrimination are auto services and other retail. And, I guess at some point I can look up other retail and see exactly what that was. It says the authors also score firms' preferences for male versus female names. And, a lot of us have moved toward names that are a little more ambiguous, or we're using surnames as first names. And then you're just like totally like, well, I don't know. It says companies vary enormously in their treatment of applicant gender. 4 firms are assigned grades, indicating a preference for men, seen here in red and orange. And again, we probably know what some of those are going to be, right? Again, we've got builders first source, so construction industry. And then we have LKQ Auto, JP Morgan Chase. That one caught me off guard. And you see there the 8.2 versus the 5.3 for women. I guess that doesn't catch me off now that I think through like high finance, if you get beyond the entry-level jobs, but they said they were looking at entry-level jobs. So I don't know. I guess I'm a little surprised by that one. Honeywell. And then of course you have this big, our traditional bell curve where everybody's sort of in the center, right? And then over here on the end, favoring female applicants. Who's favoring female applicants? Well, VFC is. And I actually know a woman who used to work at one of their locations here. CBRE, Nationwide, they say favors women. And Ann Taylor Loft favors women. And I was just talking about them. Everybody else in the center, they say, hey, they kind of give men and women about the same rate of callback, depending upon, how the name sounds. It's like, we treat them about the same. Look, Publix is in here, Olive Garden, Tyson Foods, Pilot Flying J, Dillard's. Let's see who down here at the bottom. Macy's. Yeah. All right. And then the one in green, like I showed you before, strong preference for women, those on that end. And then, like I said, but in the middle there, most firms are somewhere in the middle with negligible preferences for gender. It says industry also plays a role in gender discrimination with manufacturing. Look at that. So manufacturing. But are we surprised? Are we surprised, or would that be something that you would expect here? Let's see who we've got over here. We've got, well, okay. I guess they're not showing me that yet. We've got apparel stores favoring female applicants. And then, yeah, so that's it. But that gives you, this sort of overlay of what it generally looks like. And this is it right here. Like I said before, with a high number of companies being in the middle, but leaning toward being less discriminatory. And then with certain ones having more discrimination than others when it comes to deciding, are we going to give them a call back or not? But again, it comes down to how do you, figure out how you're applying for jobs in a way where you aren't counted out. Like you're out, you're done, you're not even considered just because of the way that your name sounds. And if you're a parent, like did you ask yourself when you were going through that book of baby names, did you sort of say to yourself, okay, wait, I don't know that I want to choose that name because that name sounds too much like this and that name sounds too much like that. And I want my child to have opportunities. Or did you say, I don't care, I like this name? Or, yes, this name sounds totally weird, but I'm going to do it anyway. How did you determine? And have you been in situations where people have said things about your name on the job? Have you had people make comments and references about your name? Or better yet, have you been in a hiring situation, been a part of a hiring team and had team members say something? Because sometimes, you'll be in those rooms and it'll just be the 4 team members or 3 team members, and you're going through the resumes, the 80 resumes that came in for an entry level position because people just want to get a job. They just want to get started, right? And you've got that 80 and you're going through them and they're going through them and this person's going through them. And, a coworker says something that references the person's name and doesn't have anything at all to do with the person's experience. How do you handle that situation? Do you speak up then? Do you not say anything? Do you say, well, wait, let me look at that and see whether or not that person has the experience? But if your colleague has already crossed them off the list, just because the colleague saw the name and didn't like the sound of the name, I don't want that name being on our website, on the Facebook page, the name being in the directory when people call. That's not the look I want. So when a colleague says something like that, what do you say in response to that? Do you file a complaint? Well, we were in this meeting and here's what was said. Are you the one who steps up, takes that on? A lot of times, no. A lot of times, no. So let me know in the comments, have you been in any of these situations? Because it looks like some of this is still going on. And are you doing other things to get around it and still get the job? So I hope this information provides you with, I guess, some thoughts on what's going on with this. Are we getting better? How can we get better? And if you're out there looking for a job, like, what do you do? How do you get around this? And how do you tap into your own personal network so that, you still get a call back? You still get a call back. All right. Peace. And don't forget to like and subscribe.